Good evening, everyone. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here is a look at some of today's top stories. Charles Manson follower Leslie Van Houten walked out of a prison today after serving over 50 years of a life sentence. For the first time, a man has been convicted of murder in connection to a fentanyl-related death. The victim was a 15-year-old girl from Northern California. San Francisco police arrested over 100 people over the weekend. This was after a skateboarding event turned violent. Just today, Charles Manson follower Leslie Van Houten is now free after Governor Newsom decided not to challenge an appeals court who overturned his parole rejection. This comes after Van Houten's parole had been rejected previously 5 times. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
Since 2016, former Charles Manson follower Leslie Van Houten's 5 recommendations for parole have all been rejected by the California governor. However, on May 30th, an appeals court overturned California Governor Gavin Newsom's 2022 veto. Newsom had until July 12th to challenge the decision, but announced on Friday that he would not do so. Newsom's office released a statement saying the governor was disappointed by the decision and, quote, more than 50 years after the Manson cult committed these brutal killings, the victims' families still feel the impact. Van Houten has served 53 years of a life imprisonment sentence for her involvement in the 1969 killings of Lino LaBianca, a grocer in Los Angeles, and his wife, Rosemary. Van Houten's attorney, Nancy Tetreault, told NBC that her client has been working on her rehabilitation and has been in therapy for decades. And, quote, there's no evidence, there's nothing in her current record that shows she is dangerous. Corey LaBianca, murder victim Lino LaBianca's daughter, told the Associated Press, quote, my family and I are heartbroken because we're once again reminded of all the years that we have not had my father and my stepmother with us. My children and my grandchildren never got the opportunity to get to know either of them, which has been a huge void for my family. The LaBianca murders happened the day after Manson followers killed actress Sharon Tate and 4 others. Van Houten did not participate in the Tate killings. Jason Blair, NTD News, California.
Speaking of paroles, a California bill that would give death row inmates a chance at parole has advanced through the Assembly. But the bill has been met with heavy opposition, citing significant costs to the state, potential harm to family members, and risk to communities if approved.
In a partisan vote on June 27th, the Assembly Public Safety Committee passed a bill that would allow for inmates convicted of capital murder or sentenced to death to receive resentencing. Senate Bill 94, authored by Democratic State Senator Dave Cortese, would offer a path to release for those convicted of murder with special circumstances before 1990. Cortese says the bill was introduced with the intention of allowing a path for elderly inmates who are no longer a risk to society to be released. Supporters of the bill say that imprisoning people for decades lacks humanity, and this bill would alleviate such concerns. But multiple law enforcement agencies across the state and friends and family members of murder victims have spoken in opposition to the bill. The San Diego Deputy District Attorney's Office Association argues, quote, dragging these murders back into court will be prohibitively expensive, tie up judicial resources, and further inflict pain upon their victims. By creating presumptions favoring the release of these murderers, SB 94 will create unjustifiable risks to public safety. In response to concerns, Cortese has assured critics that the process would be lengthy and unsuccessful for many inmates that petition. But opponents argue that victims should be prioritized over criminals. The bill will now be considered by the Assembly Appropriations Committee. If passed, it will then head to the Assembly floor.
A recent conviction marked the first of its kind in California. One man has been linked to the opioid-related death of a teen from the city of Roseville. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
On Friday, a 21-year-old man was convicted of second-degree murder for supplying fentanyl to a 15-year-old girl who fatally overdosed last year in the Roseville area. The girl's death was reported in June 2022. Prosecutors claimed that Nathaniel Kabakungan was in possession of fentanyl, which was pressed into what looked like Percocet pills and transported them to the teenager with the intent to sell. According to the Placer County District Attorney's Office, Nathaniel Kabakungan was arrested after an investigation by the Placer Special Investigations Unit. Placer County prosecutors stated that this is the first time in California that someone has been convicted of murder in a fentanyl death. According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, fentanyl is a lethal synthetic opioid that is 50 times more powerful than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. Kabakungan's preliminary hearing was intended to determine if there was enough evidence for him to go to trial. Instead, Kabakungan chose to change his plea on Friday. District Attorney Morgan Geyer said, "The murder conviction today demonstrates that our office remains committed to holding dealers of deadly fentanyl accountable for the lives they take." The defendant is set to be sentenced on August 16, 2023 at 3 p.m. Christina Corona, NTD News, California.
San Francisco police made a large arrest over the weekend when a skateboarding event reportedly turned violent. Property was vandalized and officers were hurt. Over 100 people were arrested.
The San Francisco Police Department made a mass arrest on July 8th after skateboarders and spectators took over city streets and caused property damage around Dolores Park. The event was unpermitted and non-sanctioned. 4 minibuses were attacked by graffiti. Officers were attacked with fireworks and bottles. One officer was cut with a blade, and several firearms were seized. Residents asked officers to escort them to their homes. 81 juveniles were cited and released, and 32 adults were arrested. In a statement, San Francisco Police Chief Bill Scott said, "This dangerous and unlawful behavior puts members of the public and our officers at risk of serious injury or worse. This behavior will not be tolerated in our city." The Dolores Park Hill Bomb is an event that has been held on and off for years, in which skateboarders plunge down Dolores Street at full speed. The thrill of the sport attracts young people, but has also caused property damage, resulted in injuries, and caused 1 death in the past. This year, skateboarders started to set off fireworks and vandalize property. In addition to firearms, officers also found unignited fireworks and narcotics paraphernalia during the arrests.
And in Sacramento, law enforcement arrested multiple people participating in a sideshow. The spectators blocked traffic and broke into an Amazon truck.
Law enforcement made multiple arrests after spectators from a sideshow started vandalizing and blocking traffic in Sacramento. Perpetrators also surrounded an Amazon truck, threw objects at it, and broke into the cargo container. The driver was able to escape unharmed and limit the cargo thefts. Participants can be seen hanging from vehicles, shooting fireworks, and climbing on the truck. The sideshows led to 2 pursuits, multiple arrests, 14 vehicles being impounded, and 25 citations.
We'll now take a short break, everyone, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. Venture capital firms are joining retailers in leaving San Francisco. They say the city is no longer safe for employees. Survey results show that side hustles are popular nowadays. 39% of U.S. adults have an extra source of income, and for Millennials and Gen Z, it's even higher. And a sheriff's deputy rescued 3 puppies after spotting them by the side of the road. These adorable pups are now in need of a forever home. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today, everybody. I'm your host, David Zhang. Venture capital firms are increasingly joining retailers and other businesses in finding homes outside of downtown San Francisco. They seek safer areas and more welcoming environments for employees to work in.
Venture capital firm Headline used to be in one of San Francisco's most eye-catching skyscrapers, the Transamerica building that has defined the skyline for decades. Then came the pandemic.
Downtown San Francisco was never a place I wanted to go. If I had a client meeting downtown, I wanted to be in and out as efficiently as possible. And so to me, it's always been a little bit of a sad part of this beautiful gem of a city. And no, you don't get that green space. And I think that's a huge miss, and it always has been. I think that part of town just hasn't evolved in so long. And my hope is that with all the attention it's getting now, post-COVID, and with people not wanting to spend time there because they're not being forced to, I hope that that's a catalyst for change for that neighborhood. It's just, it's tragic to see what's happening.
As the tech industry shifted to work from home or downsized, a city center that was already struggling with drugs and homelessness slipped further into urban decay. Businesses closed and visitors were scared off, creating a vicious cycle that coincided with changes already happening in the city's real estate market. With Headline's lease ending, the company decided to look elsewhere. They moved to Presidio, a former military base turned national park next to the landmark Golden Gate Bridge.
To be in this iconic building in the Transamerica, overseeing the bay and see entire San Francisco. But it did feel a little bit more corporate. It was hard to get to. There was a lot of security. It didn't feel integrated. It was not as green as it is here.
Because the Presidio is a national park, there are police patrolling, making the area generally safer than other parts of San Francisco. Rex Salisbury, who runs his own VC firm, Cambrian Ventures, has been living and working from Presidio since 2017.
I did at one point have my car stolen because the keys were left in the ignition, so it's kind of an exception that proves the rule about the safety generally in the Presidio, which is I felt safe enough to leave my vehicle in that state. And that was actually covered 20 minutes later by the Presidio police, which are the park police, and a federal police force that's separate from the city's own police force.
And some of the sort of more boutique, financial-oriented firms, have looked at the Presidio and view the Presidio as a premium location, because we do have this phenomenon that we call flight to quality, where companies are looking at how do I move into better quality space that's going to be more attractive, more conducive for my employees to come to the office, to be able to collaborate, and in the case of tech companies, to innovate. So we do see that happening.
Over the past year, more and more businesses have left the city, citing increased homelessness and crime. Westfield, for example, said last month it was giving up its downtown shopping mall after 20 years, as foot traffic fell by 43% from 2019. It's not just San Francisco. Los Angeles is seeing similar troubles. Rapper 50 Cent said the city is, quote, finished after the zero bail policy was reinstated. Adopted during the pandemic, the policy attempted to reduce prison crowding. It reduced bail to $0 for suspects accused of misdemeanors and non-violent felonies. Critics say the state has seen a spike in violent crime after the policy returned in May after temporarily ending in July 2022.
In more businesses-related news, half of millennials and more than half of the Gen Z population have more than one source of income. That's according to a survey recently released. A business expert and lawyer told NTD's David Lamb that high costs are pushing today's young adults to get a side hustle.
From finding an extra job, delivering takeout, or doing rideshare, it's quite common for today's young adults to have a side hustle, meaning they earn more money in addition to their main source of income. That's according to a survey recently released. The May 2023 survey from Bankrate says that 50% of millennials, people born between 1981 to 1996, said they earn extra income on the side. And for Generation Z, those born after 97, ages 18 to 26, 53% earn income on the side. Katie Charleston, business and intellectual property expert and lawyer, says she sees a trend on the West Coast that's gaining momentum across the country.
There's definitely a trend for online side hustles. We've got Silicon Valley there, and it's very much a high-tech world out in California. And so we're seeing a lot of individuals turn to things like Amazon seller accounts, but also influencers.
Charleston believes many recent college graduates coming out of the pandemic have turned to an online platform to make money. She's seeing them make careers out of the side gigs. What's driving up the trend of getting a side hustle? According to a survey by Deloitte, nearly 40% of Gen Z and millennials say they feel stressed or anxious at work all or most of the time.
I think it's twofold. I think on one side of it, you have employers expecting as much effort as possible during the work hours and beyond to fulfill the role of a position because of extensive costs, which are due to inflation. And that would be the second reason that the employees are looking for side hustles as well. Inflation's at, all-time highs, and so we're seeing individuals who have been able to afford housing and childcare and groceries now face these inflated prices.
Charleston said the prices of groceries and fuel pushed people to finding a way to supplement their incomes to survive in today's economy. And for those that want to run a business, Charleston advises to get things written down.
For the younger entrepreneurs, it's important to remember to get things in writing. I think it is so easy today to try and do everything on sort of a handshake, which is the old-fashioned way. So the importance of having agreements in writing, whether that is with employees, contractors, vendors, etc., is key to limit potential disputes in the future.
The survey also found that 39% of U.S. adults have a side hustle. I know some of us may have an extra source of income or even considered getting one. It is nice to have that extra cushion just to get by. Now, out of the generation surveyed, baby boomers, who are ages 59 to 77, have the smallest percentage of side hustles, 24%. In Santa Clara, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
Today, the Laguna Beach Animal Shelter received a $30,000 donation from a former resident who loved animals and the shelter. Plans for a plaque honoring the late resident is now underway.
The Laguna Beach Animal Shelter will now accept a $30,000 donation on July 11th from the now finalized estate of a former resident. The donation will be used for facility maintenance, animal care, and public outreach. Once privately run, the shelter was taken over by the city in 1978 and has since been a key outlet for the city's stray, lost, and injured animals. According to city council officials, Edward Burkhart, who was also an aerospace computer engineer before retiring, left the amount to the facility before his death in 2015 at the age of 86. A Laguna Beach spokeswoman told the Epic Times that donations like Mr. Burkhart's to the shelter only occur every few years. Plans for a plaque honoring Mr. Burkhart's life and contribution are currently underway.
And to end the evening, in the Central Valley, a sheriff's deputy was investigating a theft report when he stumbled upon a group of puppies by the road. The officer says he couldn't just leave them there, so he took a moment to lend them a helping hand.
A Fresno County Sheriff's deputy went above the call of duty Sunday night when he spotted and rescued 3 puppies from the side of a road.
They looked sad. The first thing I thought about was my daughter, because she's in love with animals, and I seen them there and I was like, man, my daughter would have them.
He says he loaded them in the back seat of his patrol vehicle and took them to Fresno County Animal Services. Deputy Davis encourages people to refer to their local animal services or shelters instead of abandoning unwanted pets on the streets.
These puppies need a good home, good families to be around, someone to take care of them and love them, because those are some very lovable puppies. I mean, even wrangling them into the car, they were just at first a little shy, and then once you showed a little compassion, they're all over you, jumping up and down. It was great.
Workers at the shelter say the puppies appear to be a shepherd mix and about 10 weeks old. People interested in adopting these dogs may contact the Fresno Humane Animal Services by visiting its facility at 1510 West Dan Ronquillo Drive in Fresno or call 559-600-7387.
Now let's check in with NTD's Carlos Reyes for today's Sports Roundup.
This is your California Sports Roundup. We have some exciting scores to cover today. I'm Carlos Reyes. In a surprising turn of events, 2 powerhouse universities from the West Coast, the University of Southern California and UCLA, are set to leave the Pac-12 Conference to join the prestigious Big Ten in 2024. While this potential move has sent shockwaves through the college sports world, Pac-12 Commissioner George Calif has been working tirelessly to salvage the conference's reputation. Rumors began swirling about the potential defection of USC and UCLA following a series of confidential discussions between representatives from the two universities and the Big Ten. Insiders suggest that USC and UCLA are drawn to the allure of the Big Ten's rich history, financial stability, and increased exposure above all else. Both universities have enjoyed immense success within the Pac-12 over the years, but are now seeking new opportunities to elevate their athletic programs. One notable incident that caught the attention of college sports enthusiasts occurred earlier this year, when Calif was spotted at a Southern Methodist University basketball game. Analysts and insiders quickly speculated that the Pac-12 may be looking to expand its membership to include the San Diego State Aztecs and the SMU Mustangs. The Pac-12 has struggled to maintain the same level of success and exposure as the other Power 5 conferences in recent years. The conference's football programs have not been represented in the college football playoff since 2016, and television ratings for conference games have dipped, hampering revenue generation. With the prospect of adding San Diego State and SMU to its ranks, the Pac-12 could forge a new identity, embracing change and ensuring its longevity in the ever-evolving landscape of college athletics. The USC Trojans are going into the 2023 season with high hopes. The 2022 Trojans were viewed as a team to make some noise, but were not expected to do anything special. That wasn't the case, as USC had their best season to date, and it was thanks to first-year coach Lincoln Riley and their transfer quarterback from Oklahoma, Caleb Williams. Williams exploded onto the scene, establishing himself as the best quarterback in college football, and ran away with the Heisman Trophy in just his sophomore year. If he was under the radar last season, that will not be the case in 2023, as all eyes will be on Williams and the Trojans to repeat or exceed expectations this upcoming season. Williams is seen by many as a generational talent, thanks to his rocket launcher for an arm and his insane scrambling abilities that allow for some scintillating improvisation. Make no mistake, the hype surrounding the 21-year-old is real in the college football aspect. But could he be able to duplicate that in the NFL? At the moment, pundits believe he can, as he is currently projected to be the #1 overall pick in the upcoming 2024 NFL Draft. The sporting world was recently set ablaze after an anonymous NFL manager told ESPN reporter Matt Miller Caleb Williams is Patrick Mahomes. The magnitude of this statement cannot be ignored. The fact that a 21-year-old in college is being compared to a potential Hall of Famer is unheard of, especially in today's NFL. Whatever the case may be, Williams has cemented himself as must-see entertainment for USC's upcoming season. That is it for today's sports. Thank you for watching. I'm Carlos Reyes.
Thanks, Carlos. All right, everyone, that's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts at ntd.com/California-today. You will find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Ganjin World, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. If you'd like to share news tips with us or let us know how we're doing, we'd love to hear from you. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.